These are the highlights of India's smartest podcast, The Ranveer Show. Welcome to TRS Clips. Make sure you hit that bell icon and don't forget to subscribe. Speaking about storytelling, art and culture, I do feel like this is where the Indian epics come into play. Ramayana, Mahabharata, it's the same kind of story, or at least the backbone of the story is the same all across India, whether you're talking about the East, West, North, South. I got to talk to you about Amar Chitrakatha. You said that your favorite comic book is the Hanuman comic book of Amar Chitrakatha. A goal of mine in life personally from an artistic standpoint is, have you watched Dragon Ball Z ever?
Yeah.
I want to make a Mahabharata Dragon Ball Z, like a Dragon Ball Z style Mahabharata, because I believe that the art that they've shown in Dragon Ball Z, it applies very well to the Mahabharata. A great example of a Dragon Ball Z style Indian epic is the old Japanese version of Ramayana that they had made. Have you seen this? Where very beautiful, it's hand-drawn art. And I do feel like children are drawn naturally to overly saturated colors. You know, these kind of larger than life special effects which sometimes only come into play through animation. So are you working towards something like that? Are you working towards animation as well? Because I'm sure you'll have something more Bahubali style in the pipeline for yourself on a more personal level. I believe that that's what your goal is, for which you've partnered up with Amar Chitrakatha. But are you also thinking of animation? Or you know what, the question to you is just kind of let this Amar Chitrakatha theory of mine explode in this podcast. Why have you partnered up with them in the first place?
If you needed to consistently make content which is about Indian culture, then you got to go find the place that has been making and consistently writing Indian culture. So one is, there's no bigger play than Amar Chitrakatha to be part of. So I think first that is a no-brainer to be as to why I invested and why I was there. The second thing is, yes, obviously we partnered for the first thing is to really scale up films like in mythology, where Hiranyakashipu now is the next film that we're working on as one of those properties. And the idea was to also create a bank of art which is now unique. Whereas, see, there's been always a classic traditional sense of what animation was. There were bits and pieces of Amar Chitrakatha and Tinkle that did that in the past. And today also you see a lot of animation which is targeted towards children. And there is very little, whether it's in the sense of a graphic novel or in the sense of anything that's post-teen or which is adult in terms to consume. It's either you go back to a nostalgic value of ACK and it continues to stay at that teen level, but nothing after that. Now the idea is to explore various formats of this. As much as we have things for teens, that's already out there, 7 and above, is to try take a direction for how you get much younger audience into it and much older audience into it. So as a company right now, it's divided with mythology, folktale, Bravehearts, and wit and wisdom in that format. And the idea is to scale each of them up. If it's history, take the directions of actually going live action and recreating monuments and stuff that used to be, whether it's the Mauryans, whether it's the Rajputs, go in that direction of creating them back and getting them either to scale on different OTTs or go back and create one of our own in terms of pipeline. So that's the direction of where we see that a lot of content can be spurged out in ACK. And yes, there's a global intent in terms of trying to take all of this and to see that there is enough of an overseas audience which is Indian that's consuming it. And what we're also doing is creating multiple versions that can go into Thai and all Southeast Asian languages. We want to travel along with the mythology, where the mythology stood, whether it's Indonesia, Bali.
Wow.
Go back and take those stories to where they actually belong. And we're also in the process of curating a bunch of stories. We actually have a bunch of Ramayans from the Mauritius that have come in, some from early Cayman Islands that have come in, things of Hinduism that have gone in different places. The idea is to pick back and take a more historic approach than a devotional and a religious approach to it.
I love that idea of you taking mythology exactly where it went and then like creating for them as well.
So I was thinking of where to go. I mean, there was a place where it went. Center of Bali, you will see a large chariot of Karna and Ghatotkacha right in the center of this place. If you go to the Thai airport, you will, the airport is called Suvarnabhumi. And second, you see the churning of the ocean between the Devas and the Asuras. That was the beginning of the Bhagavad Purana. Now, if there's so much visual reference there, I think that it is directing us to get there and say, here you go, this is a place where you have to tell these stories.
You know, that's what kind of hurts me about the history that's taught in Indian schools. We learn way too much about the medieval times, the recent times, about the independence movement, when there is like this glorious history that you should be learning about pre-medieval times. For example, this whole thing about Indian dynasties, when they say India was a Sone ki chidiya, that they took Indian culture to Southeast Asia. It spread as far as the Philippines. It's not spoken about enough. And hopefully, you know, that's what the art of storytelling might do, because they say that borders are gradually disappearing as the human species is evolving. So storytelling is what's really going to create these soft borders, if you may. So in a way, you're doing the same thing that the Chola dynasty did, but in a much more 2021 context. I gotta bring you back to that Ramayan question, the Japanese Ramayan. Have you watched it? Because I mean, I was born in '93. I believe that movie released in '91 or '92.
I saw pieces of what you're talking about.
Check out the movie, because anyone who's born in the early 90s, that's our reference point when it comes to Ramayan. It's not the TV shows. It's those cartoons that were drawn out about, and it's these gorgeous cartoons, man. Like if I think of Ram, if I think of Hanuman, that's what pops in my head. Like that's my visual reference point, and it's possibly one of the most beautiful animated movies I've seen.
I said I'm born 80s, so I got a little different Ramayana that came to me than it did to the ones in the 90s.
Right. But I mean, check it out, because my big hope is that there should be a filmmaker who will recreate epics in that light.